When using the importing contracts and amendments process, you have an original contract and possibly some amendments or renewals that have already been processed through the paper-based method. You'll need to import them so that you can create and process a new amendment or renewal. You'll need to have electronic versions of those contract documents to help you manually create the transactional contract document and later to import them. To manually create the transactional contract document, the navigation to the contract entry page is the same. Navbar, Navigator, Supplier Contracts, Create Contracts and Documents, Contract Entry. On the Add a New Value tab, the Set ID, Contract ID, Style ID, and Contract Process option will default. We just need to click Add. We need to verify the status is open on the page. All transactional contract documents will be created and edited in open status. We need to enter or look up the administrator buyer. This is the PeopleSoft ID of the contract author. We need to enter or look up the supplier or the supplier ID. The ID is the unique identifier. If the previous documents were routed using the paper-based method, then you should be able to find the supplier ID on the Executive Document Summary or the EDS. This is an important step because the name will be inserted into the amendment contract document. Now I need to enter or update the begin date. This would reflect the beginning of the original contract term. Notice it has defaulted with the date that I began this transactional document. Now I need to enter or select from the calendar icon the expire date. This is a required entry and it should reflect the expiration of the most current contract term. Now I need to enter the maximum amount here under the amount summary grid. It should represent the total spend including the original contract and all amendments or renewals for $0 contracts or contracts that won't have an actual dollar amount. For example, a revenue generating contract, you would enter the maximum amount as 0.001. Remember, that's as close to zero as we can get in PeopleSoft financials. If you're creating a QPA purchase agreement contract, the maximum amount of the transactional contract document should be an estimate of the spend. Now we need to enter the description. We recommend that you begin it with a 3-digit version of the business unit number, followed by a short description. There is a 30-character limit. If this is consistently done, then you can search the Find an Existing Value tab by the business unit. Now we're ready to enter line item information. You can enter the information in the lines area, including the description, the unit of measure, the category or the unspec code, and the merchandise amount. Or under contract categories lines, you can enter or look up a line category or unspec. If this was a $0 contract, you would enter the contract line category as 012345567 with a description that will default as SCM $0 contract. You would choose only one of these two options. If you're creating a QPA contract and no line items are identified, you would check Allow Open Item Reference, the checkbox in front of it. If you're creating a QPA contract and line items are identified, then don't check the Allow Open Item Reference checkbox. Now we need to click the PO Defaults hyperlink. These values are critical to route the SCM contract document through the contract approval workflow. We need to enter or look up the business unit, and it is required. Down under the distributions area, we need to enter or look up the department or the agency department ID. Because I've entered information, I need to click OK for it to take it. At this point, I can see that it has entered the supplier name or the short supplier name and has provided me with the supplier hyperlink here that when I hover over it provides the default address for verification purposes. If everything has been completed as required, we can go down to the bottom of the page and click Save. Once the page has refreshed, we would encourage you to make note of the 25-digit contract ID number just assigned by PeopleSoft.